Hey, everybody, welcome to Spill the ImmuniTEA. We're on week 9. Oh, my goodness. It is just getting better and better. I'm joined today, of course, with Brandon and Alex, and we have special guest Amy, superfan Amy, here to share her knowledge and her love for Survivor. Good to have Amy.
Hello. It's good to be here.
All right. Well, before we dig into the episode, what is our general, what are we thinking about this episode, but also the jury? Because that's one of the things that we saw last night was, I think, a lot of, reaction, surprise from the jury. How are we doing jury-wise this season? Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've watched, we are the podcast for you because you don't have to watch any of the other ones because I watch them for you and we talk about all the opinions of everybody. There are a lot of people who are mixed messages on this whole David vote off. There are opinions everywhere from thank God, he doesn't deserve to play. Like it's almost the Carolyn. If you ever see the Carolyn's take on David, it is well worth watching. Anything Carolyn's well worth watching. All the way to, man, that was my bra. And he should have won, and that's how old school Survivor should come back, and la 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 la. When it comes to the jury, where are they at when it comes to not only people like David, but you got to think about that because you either love David's game or you hated David's game. And if you hated David's game, then you love Camilla's game, or you love, almost anybody besides Joe's game because they played a very similar game. As far as Camilla's comment on jury management right now you have Cedric who wants somebody. I think he wants an honest guy. I think he wants somebody who cared about people and played a strategic game but didn't get dirty. And then you have a Chrissy who wants nothing but dirt. Like she wants the dirtiest player in the game to win this. And so now you have David, which where in the world does he even go with his vote besides, maybe hoping Mary does it? Because I don't think he would vote for Joe based on his whole honor thing, which we can define words here later on. What was your guys' take, Alex and Amy?
I was shocked. I mean, I have to eat crow this week because I was saying there's no way David's getting voted out. I mean, we'll talk about this, but such a bad move by Joe and Eva. I think it was totally the wrong move from them. They're opening the game wide open. It's at anybody's game now. I said, if Mitch goes home, there's no pathway for Camilla. There's no pathway to the end for her. She's not going to win. And now the whole game's wide open. Anybody can win. It makes, I think, the season more interesting, with old school Survivor, when people have the alliances and they stuck to them, you're just like, okay, who's going to get voted off week after week. Right. So I think it's adding a new twist, and I like the vote off. I was shocked. I really thought it was going to be Mitch. I didn't think Joe and Eva would switch, and I'm kind of curious why, because it just confirms all of David's suspicions. It just exactly right. So
Kyle is a mastermind. People, he is the winner. He is the mastermind of all things.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Kyle, with his franticness, and I guess that talk on the beach with Joe, made a difference, and it kind of put that into context of why he was so sporadic. And yeah, I did not expect that coming from Joe and Eva. So, but yeah, I would love to hear Amy. What are your thoughts? Go ahead, Amy.
I think it totally changed when David questioned Joe's integrity.
Right.
And I think it was over in Joe's mind. He was happy to do whatever Eva wanted to do, but he had back-to-back experiences with Kyle and with David that were just completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum when it came to trust and bonding and relationships. And yes, it was very genuine from both of them, but it's also the game of Survivor. And when you talk about going to the end with people that you trust and you want to have loyalty, and you had someone kind of stirring the pot and already trying to go against this core alliance that you had established, then from this game and in this situation, I see where Joe and Eva could see a path forward without David, because he was running around paranoid. Yeah. And we've seen it time and time again, season after season, that paranoia is truly the biggest threat in the game when it comes to someone.
And that's another word we have to define is paranoia. Paranoia means that you are very concerned about something that's not even happening in the first place, right? David was right.
He was, yeah.
He knew what was going on. So, what's the word for paranoid, but it's all true? You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of what he was doing. His whole
aware,
aware,
Right.
but then there's a negative part to it, right? Like he wasn't just aware; he was like, help me out, Chat GPT. What is that word for being aware, but as if you're paranoid about?
Trepidatious,
he wanted
I
to
don't know.
die on.
Yeah.
And he wasn't willing to back down. Similar to Kyle last episode, where he was like, no, we can't vote out Camilla. So you both have two stick in the muds who are not going to back down from something.
Yeah.
But Kyle made the move of not going after someone's integrity about a decision that they made.
Yeah.
And I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well,
Joe's aligned to two things: Ava and his honor, right? And David ran over his puppy dog honor. And you do that, you're going home from Joe, as he's made it clear.
Well, why it was the bad move for Joe and Ava was David and Mary have nowhere to go.
Right.
They're locked into that alliance, right? Unlike Kyle, unlike Shaheen, where I guess they trust them more than they ended up trusting Mary and David, right? But that's why it was such a bad movie. They could have just waited a little bit more, kept Joe and kept David and Mary. And so cutting them at this stage, right? It creates that you had the preview of the next episode. It's now a 4-4 split down the middle.
Yep.
And what did Star say? She's like, the misfits are turning over the camp, right? So it's just such a bad move on their part. I don't know if they're even thinking that way. I think like, you're saying, I think Joe let his emotions get the best of them. I don't know if Ava's really thinking strategically.
She's not. She's got done saying this episode. She's like, oh, no, I didn't think I was going to have to start playing this early when she voted out Daily. It's episode 9. What do you mean you haven't thought about playing this game when you did? So I don't think Ava is going to be ready at all for what's about to happen these next 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Well,
I think her and Joe could make it to the end, but it's going to be like immunity idol wins, and their idols are going to have to come into play, and Shaheen, and then they're going to get I think cut. I think one of them is going to get cut relatively soon, and probably be Joe, right? Because he's just such a threat, and like that's what they're going to do.
Because they've been saying if Joe's gone, then Ava doesn't know how to think for herself, which I think they need to give her a little bit more credit because she is playing somewhat. She's not an idiot, but she will be a little bit. And she even said it herself. She will be a little bit less understanding of what's going on without Joe. Bree, what were you going to say?
Well, I just first want to say, going back to the whole, why did we get rid of David? Did you not see Star walk up and say, I want to vote Shaheen? And they're like, we really want to vote Shaheen. David was already turning on this alliance. It wasn't such a bad play. I wish they had gotten rid of Mary, because they could have said easily to David, Mary is an outlier. She is not part of our original pack. She's not that alliance member. But David, like you said, dug his own grave when he insulted Joe. Dude, they all voted for Chrissy. I don't know how this was a big surprise. Like, why are you singling Joe out when all y'all did it? Like, you were all voting for her after her craziness at Tribal. So what was the issue there? Why are you coming at Joe like that and saying he went back on his word? You voted for her too, David. I did what you did. What did you do? What was different? So with David saying, let's vote Shaheen, I want to get Shaheen next. We're trying, he's going after Camilla. What he is doing is exactly what these guys just did, except that instead of targeting Mary, they targeted David because he was out of control. I don't think it was anything bad on their game as far as the strategy of it. Now, is it a smart move to vote David? Are you down in numbers? I think that if Joe and Mitch can keep that connection, you saw the emotional effect on Mitch when he immediately, without even a split second, said Mitch's name to come on the reward. And I think Mitch is searching for those right people to take him along. I think if they keep Mitch on their side, they're pretty solid to get rid of people. I really do. And remember, now Ava has two things, right? She has the idol and she has the safety without power. The only reason that the safety without power would be detrimental to her is that her losing her vote because she's leaving to stay safe is if Joe is vulnerable and they need her vote for that. So she could toss the idol his way, take the safety without power. They're both safe, right? And they get moving through. So, but that's, I think David, he paranoid, whatever. He's coming for Shaheen. He's coming for the group.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like his hands were clean on that.
Right.
It was a true Godfather moment. Like when Joe is sitting on the hammock and David is like on his knees and they're having this conversation. Like if you watch it, but just with your ears, like don't actually watch it. It was the most interesting dialogue of truly like a Godfather. Like David is trying to come up with something to push his agenda, and Joe is in full on control. But yeah, the point about following the emotions is totally right. Like he saw it as a threat to his honor and decided to vote David out. But I think the great point of trying to go Mary probably strategically would have been better. But I think that they were done with the Kyle and David chaos. I think they were done with the conflict over and over because they would try to talk it out and they couldn't talk it out, and it was just exhausting for everyone.
Well, and the thing is, like, when it comes to the strong 6 or 17 or 2 or however many David wanted to be in this alliance in the first place, right? It was never an alliance that was going to go 6 people for Kyle or Shaheen. Like it was never that kind of alliance. Their goal was to never push the 6 because they weren't going to win this. If it was David and Joe both trying to win an immunity at 6 and at 5, they were never going to win this thing, especially since Ava started getting all these idols. Then we'll get to this part later where she tells Kyle, who she never should have involved in this. He had no right to be in this, but somehow Kyle gets involved in everything he needs to get involved in at the right times. And so to call the strong 6 an alliance that their goal, all of them, was to go to 6 was never going to happen for Kyle. And it didn't need to because he's got the Camilla on the side. Shaheen thinks he has Camilla at the side as number 2. This was a terrible move for Joe for all the reasons you guys said, and Ava for all the reasons you guys have said.
Yeah, I think that moving forward, we're going to see a lot of shifting. We're going to see a lot of different things. But I want to dig into the episode. When we started out this episode on Wednesday, we saw the aftermath of the Chrissy vote. We saw the shifting going on. It's really when I think that vote changed people's minds. But I want to talk about what we're feeling about, because I know that you guys love this. He's playing like Boston Rob. Does anyone feel like David was playing like Boston Rob?
No.
He was saying that where it all fell apart was when he accused Joe. For David, it all fell apart whenever he just started how he talks to people. There's a difference between having a good social game and having situation awareness at all times. Some people think they have a social game that it's just like a pie piece. They're just like, okay, I've been social during camp life. Awesome, check. But they don't include social life being when you're in a challenge, you don't show off your muscles and you don't tell women they're not strong enough to beat them or anything like that, which he didn't he didn't say like it wasn't word for word, but he was saying some stuff. And when it comes to social game, that's during the challenge. That's at tribal council. That is all the time. And he never had that. He may have been having some good deep talks with people, sure, but was not a well-rounded social game.
Alex?
No, I mean, he's nothing like Boston. I mean, what they were referring to was that he was implementing the buddy system, and Boston Rob created this, very insular network, but he was a mastermind. I mean, when you watch Boston Rob play, I mean, you watch the most recent season of Traders and you're like, this guy, he's amazing. This guy's incredible. Like, he's able to work a room and really understand people and manipulate people. And he's got these amazing communication skills and persuasion skills. That's not really David's, card, right? So yeah, I mean, and David can't even keep Joe, which Joe has every reason to keep David. And so, I mean, they were just referring, he's implementing this buddy system and trying to paint him as a threat more than he is. But I mean, they also should have kept him because he had no chance of winning. People didn't like the guy. So again, getting David off, it just, I was shocked. I was like going into tribal. I was like, it's Mitch 100%. So when I was like, I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe they did that. So no, nothing like Boston Rob.
No.
Amy, what do you think?
Yeah, nothing like Boston Rob. I think Boston Rob truly, as Brandon and Alex, you both touched on, has the social awareness, knows how to talk to people, is 5 steps ahead. Whereas David is too reactive, is not looking into the future, and very much thinking with his muscles and thinking that that's what's going to carry him to the end, and wasn't thinking about he wasn't thinking with his brain, and he wasn't seeing the impact of his words to the rest of the group and saying, you know what, I should have just taken a step back and let Kyle have this. Like, if he would have taken a step back, Kyle would have been the paranoid crazy one. But he was louder. He had to be louder. He had to be the king on the top and wouldn't let it go.
I don't think even in season 1, if he would say the lines like, "Hey, I'm gonna ride the back seat on this one, but it should be Camilla. Like Mary wants Camilla." Like that. You rode the back seat longer than my kids ride the back seat before they take their seatbelts off and try to get in the front seat and even take the wheel. Like, you lasted 3 seconds in the back seat, my friend. So I don't know.
Well, David should.
Go ahead.
David should know too. You can't just bring in Mary. You have a number 2 in the core alliance now, and then Shaheen and Kyle are out here, and they don't have a number 2. Like, how do you not have that, awareness to be like, okay, well, how are these guys benefiting, and how do we construct this so they feel like they're it's just so silly, right?
But
go ahead.
So here's my question. So we've all agreed that David is definitely no Boston Rob. We could see that. But when you're on the island, how smart and well played was it on Shaheen's part to suggest that, look, he's telling me I can't talk to Kyle, and Kyle's one of my, like, he's in our alliance, and I can't do this. And then he allows Ava to come in and be like, he's babysitting us. And Shaheen's like, yes, because he's dropping all things. You were trying to paint the picture on David that he's no Boston Rob, but he's like suggesting that.
Yes.
And Boston Rob is a winner. Boston Rob is a threat. Boston Rob is this. You don't want to play against Boston Rob. And David's like, Boston Rob, I don't want to play against David. Oh my God, let's get him out of here.
You want to vote somebody out, you tell them they played like a winner from a previous season. That is less about David being Boston Rob and more about Shaheen and Kyle knowing what words to say and when to say it.
Exactly.
They didn't have to that was a cool kind of setup. Those 4 days that Shaheen said he was working on setting up and getting David all primed. But, Kyle was doing that too. And then David blows himself up by saying, by questioning Joe's character. And so there was many things that happened. So smart for Kyle and Shaheen or whoever it was to say, that looks like Boston Rob. We don't want to play at that. Boston Rob also made it more than 3 tribal councils. Can we say that real quick? David only lasted 3 tribal councils. David.
Yeah.
Ooh, David.
Yeah. I think that's really important. Here's the thing. A lot of people were like, David is he's in my draft. You see him right below. I picked him. Yeah. I liked him. I thought he was going to be like that guy that could maybe get far and do something. I picked him. And yet I lost him. And when I lost him was last night, not last night, but Wednesday night, was even before, even with him suggesting to Joe that he went against his word. The part that lost it for me was the behavior after losing the challenge. I don't like that behavior. I was like, you lost, dude. You should have won those. I get PTSD. It's not real PTSD. I shouldn't make light of that, but it reminds me of when my son was playing hockey, and I'd be like, after the game and they lost or something didn't go right or whatever. I was always really honest with my son. I'm like, you made a lot of really great passes, but you weren't like thinking ahead, whatever. And these other parents would be like, whoa, he had a rough week, and he had a test on Friday, and he was up all night studying the night before, so he doesn't have. I'm like, stop making excuses. Oh, we should have won that because the ref called it. Stop blaming it on the refs. Play better, win. So I guess I go into that mentality when I see somebody doing like, should have won that.
Yeah.
No, dude, you didn't, because you didn't keep focus. It's more than just having big muscles and holding it up. You lost focus for a minute, and Joe, even though he lost focus, was able to correct, and you couldn't. That's why you lost. I don't know. That's just me, and that's where I lost. I was like, you can go home, David. I'll take the hit for you this week.
Yeah. His acting started kind of falling apart, and you kind of saw, the guy who lives, I'm not trying to get it, but the guy who lives in the trailer, right? And like, why maybe he is single, right? You started seeing some of these personality flaws come out. Bless his heart. David, I'm sure you're a great guy. And they haven't eaten, right? All this different stuff, right? And he's hard on himself, and that's the thing that he prides himself on. And so we can understand. But it wasn't a good look. It was like you're this big, strong guy, but you're sulking over in the corner, and poor me. And then Mary's coming over, and you kind of saw that too, right? Where that was the writing on the wall too, where even Kyle was, poking at it like, oh, it really looked like they were like, really good friends, right? And that was really funny on Kyle. And that was the dynamic, right? But David, he would never. Okay. So yeah, I thought that was not a very good moment for David. And I think that should have alluded to us. Okay, David is going home tonight. Like, this is creating his swan song, his "you're leaving Survivor" moment, right? Go ahead.
Well, and the fact that Ava didn't include David or Mary when she told the 4 about what she had won, that should have clued us in on being like, hey, like, where's the other part of this alliance? Mm-hmm. They ain't there. Shaheen was even there, and he probably, I bet Joe's like, hey, come, we're gonna talk to Ava, and she's gonna tell us everything. I'm gonna show you. And then Kyle, of course, just bops right into wherever he wants to bop in and hear the right information at the right time. David, in that game, it's one thing to be a sore loser, and hopefully people are teaching against being sore losers, and especially discrediting what Joe is doing. You don't ever discredit what other people are doing. You lost, but also this is a social game. So it's 2 times worse, because you shouldn't be discrediting anybody, regardless if that person, regardless if you really lost and the other person, shouldn't have won. If that's your mindset, oh my goodness, David.
It was an epic challenge. It was epic. That Joe wins at that far. I said, no way. So, Amy, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I love the challenge. Love a good showdown at the end. Was amazed at how quickly people dropped out. The bungee was insane. So to see something a little bit different and that difficult was a lot of fun. And of course, you're having this moment of like, is David really going to win this? And then, yeah, he lost focus. And this is truly the episode where I believe David quit playing the game and the game started playing him. And you can see that from the challenge all the way to how he reacted after camp. Bree, I think you made absolutely good points. I was also disappointed with how he reacted. And if he would have just let it go, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. Everything became a big deal because he wanted to make it a big deal. And everybody just kind of got tired of that. But the challenge was a lot of fun. And interested to hear more of everyone's thoughts, including about the reward.
Well, we were talking to we were talking about Jonathan, right? The challenge beast, a big guy, always stoic, no emotion really, and he just played that game. He played the brute. He played the big guy like really well. Didn't make it, he made it pretty far, but, went out on his shield in the right way type of thing. So, you compare that archetype of play versus David, and you're like, okay, you're no Jonathan.
that player can win. Like he basically tried to show the world that, hey, I am here to show that these players can win. Well, there's a difference between that kind of player who has social awareness and doesn't discredit people and is humble and make sure he knows a lot about other people's lives, and what David appeared to be doing. And like I said, maybe David's a great guy. I know just the T in the situation, David actually, they broke up because, in his words on a podcast, that well, I didn't win the money, and so that was it. I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. So again, another discredit of a former girlfriend of his, perhaps. Just saying. But he's found somebody else, and things are working out. So great for David. That's awesome. Wonderful. But at the same time, David.
Yeah, David. He made himself a little unlikable, and it was the temper tantrum. It was the immaturity for a 39-year-old behavior when he didn't win and get his way. And it continued after the challenge into the camp for a long period of time, with Mary being there to console him. And it was over the top, too much. It was a sore loser. And that is not only what your tribe mates see, but it's the fans that are watching see, and they're you're not as likable at that point. Jonathan, if I look back on Jonathan, I still really like the guy. I thought he was great. Like, he was always going to be there. He's the guy you want to bring if you're lost on an island, because he's going to pluck you out of the water when you fall in, and pull down the pumpkin or the pineapples and the coconuts from the trees and do all the things and make life better for you. He's just an affable, wonderful kind of guy, big. But David had the opportunity to be that guy while still playing a smart game, and he tanked it because he let losing, like, you lost $1 million by losing that challenge, and it wasn't because you lost the challenge, it's because you lost control of your behavior.
I think he tripped over his ego. Like, he thought it was so fragile that it was all broken and it all ended, and he had something to blame at that point of like why he lost the game. It's because he lost that challenge. And
I don't know if he tripped over his ego or he just ran into it full force, because it's not a stepping stone. It is something else. And this is my fifth to last comment on David, I promise. But with David, I think also he said in his interviews and stuff that Survivor is not a hard game. And he said that like in every single podcast, telling people it's not a hard game. How can you say it's not a hard game? Again, 3 tribals you made. And you're telling people, oh, it's easy. Easy pick.
Yeah.
What? David.
No. David. All right, I got to move on to Ava's advantage. Let's chat about that, because from start to finish, there's been a lot of talk about it, not just in the choices that she made this week, but in the getting the advantage. We talked a little bit about it last week. I'm still seeing a lot of people saying, it's kind of a production plant, because it was in her like seated. That was where her name card was, and that's where she got seated. Have we done assigned seats before?
You know what opinion I have. I think that it was a fair move for somebody who won a challenge. They put it in our tortillas. If she were to find it, if this was anybody else, like if this was Kyle and he was a little bit trying to hide it or whatever, then I think it would have became a big thing and it would have been a reason for somebody to be voted out. But I think she's doing great with it. I think she's almost near perfection, besides put Kyle in that group of people she told. So, my opinion. I'm sorry.
I think it was just a production error. I think they could have explained it better and they wouldn't be having all of this uproar. Like, I don't think fundamentally what happened was wrong, but it wasn't explained in a way that as a viewer, it made sense. So I'm kind of chalking it up to a production error. I don't have any problem with it fundamentally, but it's that perception, and I don't think production managed the perception well. But we know that there are very much lawyers involved with Survivor and ensuring that no one has unfair advantages and chances. So And we haven't seen this to be a systemic issue in the past. So, but I think it's something that they're going to be highly aware of in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I look back on the King George season with the shiz, and like there's some things in there where you're like, okay, they're getting a lot of breaks. This is very, but hey, if it helps the people I like, I'm happy. With Ava's decision, I thought it was weird. Safety without power, I think is actually, in my opinion, is worse than the extra vote. You know what I mean? Because she was in the dominant alliance. The extra vote is helpful. You take yourself away, you lose a vote, you're losing your alliances at stake. I understand you're safe, but I don't know. Do you guys think, what are your thoughts? Is the extra vote better than the safety without power, or vice versa? Because I thought the extra vote is actually probably better because she was in the dominant alliance, but now she's not. So actually she does need to save herself now. But
I think it all depends on who has it. For one person, having safety without power is better. Say I think about Winners at War. Whenever, what was his name?
Yeah, that's a good point, Chocolate. She says, wasn't that like when Rachel found the advantage in her fries during the auction? Yeah, I didn't like that either. When Rachel finds it in her, because then it's only one person can find it. But I guess that was kind of different because she bid on it.
Could have been.
I just like when it's hidden and it's anybody's game and anybody can find it and it's fair play for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I interrupted Brandon, but I wanted to mention that because that is a good, and I mean that caused Rachel to win the game.
Well, I'm glad you interrupted me because I had no clue who the guy I was talking about was, but it's Jeremy. Jeremy and Winners at War got the power, leave without power thing. And it was funny how it was worded. It said, you ever receive power in this game, you get safety without power. So it was a crazy, weird wording on that. But for him, that was a great thing to have. If you're at a vote where just like, next week where it could be 4-on-4, it's huge to have that extra vote. So I think it all depends on where you're at. I think Ava at that time thought that she needed more of a safety without power because I think that gives her the chance that if she freaks out with all the anxiety she has, what a better thing to have than be like, hey, I'm out of here, deuces. Like, I don't even know who to play this vote for, so I'm just going to leave. So I think for her and her game, that one made sense for her.
Yeah,
I think it'll really come in handy when we see how this all shakes out now, right? They just got rid of David. Mary's going to be on the warpath. She is persuasive, does have a lot of the ability to strategize and make smart moves. I mean, she's the only one that's stuck around all this time from her tribe original. So I think, that could come in handy to be able to get, like, if you think about it, she could, especially this next week where there's this kind of a 4-4 split, if you can get someone that wins immunity and then the other person could get an idol and then she could get, safety without power and leave, then it could be to an advantage to play things depending on how it all shakes out. If you can bring Mitch in and stuff. But I think there's going to come a time where having both of them safe, Joe and Ava, which I think is their only concern, really, to be honest with you. Joe's only concern, he said it on the episode this week, I will effing go home before I send you home. So there was definitely that I will do anything to keep you in this game.
Yep.
So we could see this combination that Ava has right now come to benefit those two specifically because that's who they're really worried about. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think you hit it.
Yep.
Well done.
I think next week will be a very interesting week for Mary. We haven't seen her play since the Say and Mary head-to-head match and running after the beach. So I think it's time for us to see some Mary chaos again and see how she's going to play this out. So I think it's going to be either her opportunity to really like rally the group of misfits and say, here are all of the threats and why we need to get them out. So it'll be a different type of gameplay for her. And it'll be interesting to see if she can see that as the opportunity to really start making her moves now that her number one is gone.
Now, I want to talk about this that Chocolate brought up, Mary or Star. Like, Star is red. she is that racehorse at the line waiting to just give me the gun. Let me go, ring the bell. Let me out of here. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play. Who wants to run a race with me? And they're not giving her. And I really like Star. I picked her. I like Star. I would love to see more of her doing more things. Is it too little too late for her? Or do you think that she's like, where do you see how does she maneuver forward?
She has to stay with this 4-person alliance. The problem is that she said, "Hey, Ava, I'm with you," and she gave Ava the idol. So like, Star put herself. This is crazy. Her giving her that idol, we knew was not a good idea, but it's going to be even worse because now you got to decide. Okay, so there's this smaller 4 that I gave Ava an idol too, and I wonder if that's going to play into Star getting voted out because Ava plays an idol, and then therefore this 4-4, maybe Star plays too hard. I don't think she's in trouble this week, but I don't think they'd pick her of those 4 that are down at the bottom by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, how funny would that be if Star goes home because Ava played the idol for herself? And Star gets all the votes from the Power 4 or whoever it is now.
And I think in previous seasons, I would agree with you and say, yep, that's probably what's going to happen. But in this season where loyalty has played such a core value, and they have been so honest and transparent that like those are the things that are respected. So I don't know if it's in Ava and Joe to do that to Star, even though she's not in their like core alliance. It wouldn't go right with their morals and values, I think.
Correct. Which is why Star has this huge issue, right? Because to win this game, she has to go against Ava, Joe. She's not going to win against those guys, and Kyle and Shaheen, if you want to put them there. So she's in a very weird predicament where she either has to go against those people who she gave an idol to, or just decide I'm just gonna lose this game. That's kind of
I'm hoping that she's gaining some confidence and some trust. We got to see that beautiful scene where Mitch is walking her through how to swim in the ocean, and every opportunity Star has had to shine, she has literally taken it. And she's easy to fall in love with. She's playing a true relationship game where she's almost the polar opposite of David, where she's like, I'm happy to do whatever we want to do. And she's going to vote with what she thinks is the majority. Mm-hmm. And we saw that in the last vote where she voted for Mitch, which I don't think she wanted to. So maybe this is the wake up call where she's like, wait a minute, like I have a voice in the game, and she didn't want to vote out Mitch. So, and she didn't have to. Mm-hmm. So I think the next few episodes will be very interesting for Star. And I hope she gets more screen time. I hope she does more with what louder voice she has now that there are fewer people.
I think her kindness and her natural social ability is going to be what does her in, which is crazy because we just got to talk about how David got voted out because he wasn't as social as he could have been. Or I guess this is more social awareness. But I just don't see a Star victory this season.
No, I don't either. But I think that she can still have the opportunity to play and really gain some confidence in her decision making and make moves and be part of some plays and make some really good points at the final tribal. I loved watching her at this last tribal where she kind of called Camilla out. It was like, this is what she just said. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she definitely brought some of the entertainment to that tribal, just being straight, like calling it like she sees it. And I think we need more of that. And I really like that about her. And she does have a kind heart, and she's very vulnerable with people. Yeah. Like saying I can't swim and saying I need help. That is not, that is a vulnerable place to be in, especially in this kind of situation. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more swimming things at all with to show, to really say that she can't swim that well, or maybe I'm forgetting.
Able to see David's biceps if he's swimming, so that's why.
Oh, that's true. You're right. I forgot about that.
In his bicep. Yeah. I don't even know what his face looks like.
Yeah, exactly. It has a couple scars on it now, I think. But the bruised ego, it's like appeared in these cuts on his face. I like David. I do think there's redemption for David maybe down the road, not in the game, obviously, but someone will report him missing and we'll get him a real home, brick and mortar, not on wheels. Yes, here's to David, our chocolate milk of the day. Cheers.
Oh my.
Oh
Yeah.
God, wow.
Oh,
Figured it was appropriate.
Can you drink all that? I've heard it can be done.
No, but it's what I had in the fridge, and I was like, "This is the perfect opportunity."
Did a gallon of milk next week on our show?
There it is. Did any of you see the deleted scene where they talked about the tribe name is actually milk. in yes. Chinese? It also explained, I think, the relationship between Mary and David so well, because it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, but they had this like bonding moment over milk and Chinese word for milk, and it became the tribe name. And I wish that would have made it into the final cut.
You are getting more love over that gallon of milk on the chat
I know.
we've ever gotten for any opinion we've ever held. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We love it. All right, we want to shift. Brandon and I were talking yesterday or the day before of some ideas and some things that we wanted to maybe ask. So I'm going to let Brandon take over and give us what are we doing, Brandon?
Yeah. So if anybody out there wants to talk to me later about David, I have another like 55 pages of David notes here. But we are going to do something different for the next couple moments. And that is just to think about when it comes to these survivors, these castaways, who would you, not who would you rather, that's a completely different game. But if you had to imagine yourself, who would you date when you were in high school, or who would you form an alliance with? So we have some questions that we're going to ask, especially here on Season of the Fan, episode 9 or whatever we're on. So let's go ahead and show that first question. Can I just click and it shows up?
It's not going to click because I don't see it. I don't see it.
Well, never mind.
It didn't come through to me, but I can try.
Yeah. So right now, Amy and the rest of the group here, who would you align with? Who are two people you're going to be in the Gallon Milk Alliance? Who's going to be with Amy Berner on this season?
First,
what's your skill set? Tell us like how you would play the game.
Oh gosh, I think the goal for coming fresh off of like 47 is to be kind of like Rachel, but more social. Because I think she really struggled there for a little while where she was on the outs. Mm-hmm. But to try and do well in challenges, but the social game would be my greatest challenge, but also I think the best opportunity to just sit and listen to people. But in my game on this season, I think that there is a huge advantage of partnering with someone like Joe and having a true number one. But I think Kyle is truly onto something with having a core alliance and having this like secret side alliance with Camilla. Mm-hmm. I'm obsessed. I love the Kyle and Camilla, and to see it so executed so well, it's just so much fun. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to alliance, I think Kyle is playing a very brilliant game, and that's something that I would try to do is find a Joe, find a Camilla, and be part of this bigger group, but have a true number one on the side, so you have those options. Yeah, I think that's what I would attempt to do.
And would Joe be your number one of those two?
I think so. I think I would be more of the Camilla in that relationship. Okay. Because yeah, I don't have the biceps. I'm not actually drinking an entire gallon of milk every day. So
well, you drink that, you're gonna look just like David. So
okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah, so don't drink it. Alex, go ahead.
I really like what Amy's saying, and I like the idea of you have the fake number two and the real number two, and the real number two is totally under wraps, and You know, you saw last season 47, kind of the folly in the 3-person alliance, right? You had Sam and Andy and Sierra, and that all fell apart. And you had Caroline and Sue and Gabe, and that all fell apart. And so that public 3 didn't really turn out well for anybody, right? So that solid 3 didn't really turn out well. And that was like what King George did with Shiz, right? You know, I do like that idea. I mean, I would play with Camilla because she's a strategic thinker. You know, I think I would want to play a strategic game. I'm not necessarily super physical or anything. You know, I'll drink my gallon of milk before I go out there. But so I would want to do, you know, something very covert, very secretive, play kind of play a loyal game, like get in with Joe and get in with Eva, but being like kind of Kyle, right? I think I would. Maybe I'll try to freak out a little bit less, like no guarantees, you know, than Kyle, but I think I could play a Kyle-like, you know, game there, right? Because I'm not going to be with the outcast, so to say, right? But I'm definitely not the jock type, you know, so I'm going to kind of float in the middle a little bit like Kyle.
And I love how you guys are answering, because you can't just say, hey, like these are the 2 best players in the game. You have to really take in consideration what your strengths are, how you're going to play, what kind of personality you are, because all 4 of us will probably have different people, but it might be the same 2 people, but there's going to be different reasons why. So love this. Bree, go ahead. Who are you aligning with?
Well, just based on their personalities and how there's 2 people that I would like to have played with. One is Mitch, because he does offer a lot of challenge prowess. He's done well. He can win some challenges. He can do a great job, but I really just like the guy. I like the way he's, offers assistance. He's affable. He's a teacher. I was a teacher. Like there's a lot of I feel similarities to him. So I really like Mitch a lot. I think he's got a heart of gold, to be honest with you. I really like him. And the other person would be Star. And the reason I say Star is that I don't think we've seen her potential. I think that if we had seen Star make that really good connection early on in the game, we would have seen a lot more from her. We would have seen maybe a lot more strategy, given her a lot more credit for the game that she has played. I do give her credit for making it this far. I do think she's smart. We've had people say people are finding out, like, we got to get this person. I think coming to David and Mary and saying, you got to vote Shaheen. It was a very smart move. Unfortunately, they weren't going to be on board with that because of this fake idol plan that Camilla came up with. But I think that given the right opportunity, getting her, she had a foothold, felt like she had a teammate, totally different game for her. So, and I really like her. So for me, that's who I would have picked.
Okay. Very cool. Yep. I can see that exactly for you. For me, I would say between all of them, I love Kyle. I think Kyle is almost like Todd's pop worthy of how much I like this guy.
Oh boy.
So that might be my next expense. So get your Todd pop today. So I would definitely not want to have him on my season, because I would hope to play like him. And I would even say his kind of spazziness at times, where he kind of gets a little jolted easier than most. I think that's playing to his advantage this season, because he's not as confident as, usually the confident players go if they're doing things wisely. And sometimes the spazzes go, but I think he has an equal, he's on the right part of the spectrum for spaz confident, in the way that if he's too confident, they're gonna be like, oh, he's got the confidence, he's out of here. If he's too spazzy, then I can't handle this guy, he's gone. So I think he's right there. So I would say Camilla for sure. I really like how she's playing this game. And I would probably have to go with Ava, just because I'm depending on that girl to not ever lie to me, because she can't. And that might give me, sadly, the opportunity to screw her over first before she gets me. So I think those 2 players are the players that I would choose. We'll do one more question. I'm loving this, because
I got to say too, with Kyle, smile theory, right? Above average in all categories and a big smile.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Smile theory again.
Colby Donaldson approach to life right there. Don't be good at everything. Don't be the best at everything, but just be good enough, right? This brings back to me, just asking these questions brings back, I think, one of the greatest challenges in Survivor, and that's where like people have to write down what they thought their answers were, and then try to figure out who guessed or said the most. Do you guys remember that? That brought
Oh
so
yeah.
much tension to the
Yeah.
game. They need to have that back. And let's do this one. Who would you pick to hang out with for a day? And you
Ava.
can choose somebody.
Ava. Because first off, she's a Minnesota girl. We can go hang out at the hockey rink, so that I'm in for that. And I really like her. I think she's smart. We didn't get too much into her decision making on the mission that she got to go on and how she picked, I think, very wisely. Don't risk anymore. Take what you have and leave with something instead of going for a low odd choice on the idol. She already had one, so she felt pretty good sticking at that, taking the risk on the one, but then staying with what she had won. I like that. I like someone that can just make a decision. I think she'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I also I work with autistic kids. She's amazing. I want to celebrate autism, and I want to celebrate people. They're all amazing humans. They are not a detriment to us in any way. They bring so much joy, so much intelligence, and so much love to the world. And look at Ava just rocking it, doing so well. She's inspirational. And so I want to hang out with someone like that. Absolutely.
Love that. It's second all of that. Amy, who are you hanging out with?
I think I'd hang out with Kyle. I would love to know the behind the scenes of some of the decision making that he's made, but also we got to kind of see more of his past and life in this last episode, and seeing how his community kind of rallied behind him during a really tough part of his life, and after some poor decision making. I think that he has gained some life wisdom in some really tough ways. But I would spend a day with him, and think there would be some really good conversation to have.
Perfect. Love it. Alex?
I was actually, no reflection on you, Amy, but I was like, Kyle's story didn't make any sense to me. I was like, what? None of this makes any sense. What is he talking about? He was all over the place. But I do like Kyle. He's a nice guy. But I'd hang out with Star, and I would just want her to clap back at me every single time I said something. And just like, get it. Every time I said something, she just gets me. And I'd just be dying the whole time. I think Star's hilarious and super likable, super nice. Too nice for her own good, to be honest, on this show. Well, I think Star's hilarious.
And all of us can hang out with the people we want to without interruption, because I'm going to choose Shaheen. He's way too funny. The waka waka, everything he says, I smirk, and I love me some Shaheen.
You just want to touch the beard.
That's a beard, man. I could hide in that thing.
Right? You just want to hide in the beard.
That's a good beard.
Yeah, that's a good beard. That's a good beard. All right, we're going to leave the other question for next week, as we are now 5 minutes away from leaving you guys and going into our predictions. Let's start with Alex.
Well, I was dead wrong last week. I was pretty close, but then I was dead wrong. It's going to be a really interesting episode. I think it's going to be a really interesting episode. I was thinking about this. I wanted to bring this up, but it's like, you're going to see this go in so many different ways, right? I think Camilla and Kyle are in the perfect position. They have flexibility to go either way. It's 4-4. Who are they going to go after? I think they're going after Joe. I mean, why would they? Are they going to go after you? I could see Mary and Mitch and Star wanting to go after Joe now, but our Kyle, I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. So I'm going to say Joe. I'm going to say Joe. The shield is gone. Power player, biggest threat, connected with, I don't know. That's what I think. I think it could be Mitch, but I feel like Mary's on a vengeance, and they see their opportunity, and I think they're going to try to continue to strike away at that big alliance. But I think it's where do Camilla and Kyle, what's their plan, and where does Camilla's mastermind tell them to go next? What do you think?
So Brandon? Many thoughts. Bree, go ahead.
Here's what I think. I think it's going to be Ava. I think it's going to be Ava because I think Mary and Star and Mitch, at least Mary and Star, definitely going to want to make a move against power players. Ava definitely needs to, like, she has 2 advantages now. Kyle and Camilla know that she has 2 advantages. Anyone with that many advantages is a huge threat. And you put on top of that the fact that her story is incredible. I want to see Ava win this whole thing, but I don't know if she can with that many advantages. I think they make them feel really, really good. I think they like bolster this whole thing. We got to get rid of Mary now because she was the other half of the David thing. And she's too strategic. She could pull all these others together. We got to go after Mary. They flip the script. They take out Ava with her going home with 2 advantages in her pocket. That's my call.
I actually, Brie, you convinced me. I'm can I switch? I'm switching to Ava. You convinced me, Brie. I think you're right.
Okay, Brandon.
I'm eating all this up, by the way, with my milk. Amy, go ahead.
Brie, I think you're on to something where they're going, the narrative of getting Mary next is going to be a huge one, where it makes sense logically, but is it going to be a smokescreen? Is it going to be a cover for something else? Because that is when we see our best blind sides, is when there is a very logical, obvious solution that everybody can kind of get behind, and then something else happens. So I think Ava is an incredibly huge target. It would be a very smart thing to do, and I think Joe and Ava are really going to have to think through it. But there is a part of me that still says, well, maybe Mary makes too big of an argument, causes too much chaos, and they say it's just time.
Yeah,
that's a good point too. Imagine Joe's meltdown.
Well, and that's it, and that's exactly why
he's gonna be so in despair. He's gonna be so
yeah.
He's gonna be like,
well, he's
David,
and vulnerable and easier to get rid of.
His dog Honor got ran over by David. Just imagine when his daughter Ava gets ran over. No one wants that on the island. Nobody wants an Ava-less Joe because of the anger and the rage that man could possibly have. And I'm not saying he's going to be beating everybody up, but you saw that look he gave David after voting him out. I do not think, I think they're going to try to get Joe and Ava. I think because of either an immunity or someone said they're going to play their idol or whatever. Kyle's going to get the inside scoop either way. And I think Kyle and Camilla basically just go, okay, we're going to go with the majority and let them take this on. Mm-hmm. They may even choose to not vote the same way to keep their thing hidden, and for Camilla and Shaheen to vote a certain way. I think unless Mitch wins immunity, I think Kyle and Camilla are going to say enough to be like, hey, it seems like Mitch is joining Joe and Ava. We cannot have a strong 3. We got to get Mitch out. And I think my guy, I know he's on my team, but I think it's going to be Mitch on this one. If Kyle and Camilla are playing their cards correctly.
Yeah,
love it. This is turning into an interesting season. Where's it going to go?
It is. This whole thing mixed everything up. The David vote mixed everything up. It just makes it all that much better. We're excited. We have had so many people not only commenting, but tuning in. I'm so pleased with the numbers and seeing everybody. I hope that you enjoy what we do here on Spill the Immunity. We give our honest opinions. We drink chocolate milk and look for missing players. We try to give you the tea on what we can. We'll tune in next week for Amy to see if she ever got through that gallon-sized jug of milk. I want to do some shout outs today on some people. We had some new people in the chat. I got to go back. Frank was here. So hey to Frank, thanks for stopping by. Chocolate Drop, so great to have you here. Such great comments. Brennan, as always, we love all of the input that you give us. You got to come back on again soon. This is the season of the fans. So we are bringing super fans on as our co-hosts for the week. If you're interested in doing that, you can always find us in The Tribe Has Spoken over on Facebook. If you're not a part of that, it's 2.0, I should say. If you're not a part of that group, you need to be. Thanks to everyone for being here. Great episode. A lot more fun to come. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, David.
Thank you for having